Hello and welcome to another exam paper walkthrough. Today we're going in a slightly different direction. We're looking at some past papers. Now that the summer 2023 series is over, we are able to release and work through the summer 2022 past papers. So today I'm going to be looking at past paper 3F. This is a great paper back in the summer, really detailed, covered a range of great topics, and I would strongly recommend this for any form of revision for an exam series coming up. So I would strongly recommend you have a copy of the paper, either already done or do it alongside the video. Either will be very beneficial. There's going to be a link in the thread to this, to a blank copy of the paper, so make sure you have that beforehand. Other than that, please subscribe if you like, put some music on in the background. I will have some music on in the background, and I hope you find this useful. Okay, so this is a copy of the paper. I'll put a QR code that will take you directly to the video if that's going to be useful to you. But as you're watching the video, I'm going to assume that you've already found it. Right, so question 1, write 35% as a fraction. So this is a calculator paper. It doesn't say simplest form though, but on a calculator there's no excuse really not to, because you can use a calculator for it. So let's enter that like that. So 35 out of 100, and the calculator will automatically simplify it for me down to 7 out of 20. Question 2, work out a quarter of 28. So we can type this in as a quarter times by 28. If we needed to, use our calculator for it, or halve it twice. So half of it would be 14, half of it again would be 7. Question 3, write down 2 factors of 12. Well, I'm going to start by writing down all of the factors of 12. So the factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 12. Just double checking my pairs up. Yeah, and it doesn't say any particular 2. So as long as you've got two of those 6 factors, you'll be absolutely fine. Okay, question 4. Simplify 2m times by 3. So 2m times by 3. Well, 2 times 3 is going to be 6. So we've just got 6m. Right, question 5. Find the square root of 1.69. So calculator, square root 1.69 equals, and then you've got a couple of choices here. We can either go 13 over 10, or alternatively that's going to simplify to, as a decimal, 1.3. And I would recommend you go for that form. Reason being, that's the same form as the question. So this is a decimal number, so we should really give it in the same form. Question 6. On the grid, draw a quadrilateral with no lines of symmetry and a rotational symmetry of order 2. So quadrilateral means a 4-sided shape, no lines of symmetry, but a rotational symmetry of order 2. The shape that we're going to be looking for is a parallelogram then. Pretty much any parallelogram would do, provided we didn't draw a diamond, so diamond wouldn't work. And if you think about it, that has no lines of symmetry, but if we span it around a center point, it would overlap itself twice, so it has order of rotational symmetry 2. Question 7. The table shows the total number of apples sold and the total number of oranges sold in a shop in each of 3 weeks. So we've got week 1, 2, 3. Total for the 3 weeks, in the total, more apples are sold than oranges. How many more? So in effect, I'm just going to use my calculator, but I'm going to make it clear what I'm going to type into my calculator. So I'm going to add up my total for for apples, and from that I want to subtract my total for oranges. And we could work these out individually, but really there's no particular need, as long as we type it in correctly. So there we go. So we make that to be 29. So the difference is 29. Right, question 8. Here are the first 5 terms of a number sequence. Write down the next 2 numbers in the sequence. Well, these sequences are going up in 5, so the next two are going to be 28 and then 33. And we don't need anything more than that, really. For the second part, Jim says 50 is in the term of each sequence. Jim is wrong. Explain why. So I had mixed feelings about this. So we could have, technically speaking, the mathematical way to do this is to say that the nth term of this sequence then is going to be equal to constant difference of 5 means of 5n, and then what do we do to 5 to get to 3? We minus 2. So the mathematical way would be to say that 5n minus 2 is going to be equal to 50. And if we can have a whole number for n, then it is in the sequence. If we can't, then it's not. So that leads to 5n being equal to 52, which would lead to n being equal to 52 divided by 5, gives us 10.4, so not in sequence. But if you look at the numbers, all of the numbers are either going to end in a 3 or an 8. So we could just say all numbers in sequence end in 8 or 3. So 50 is not in sequence. Both answers would be fine. Definitely both answers would be fine. Okay, question 9. Here we've got a solid triangular prism. Write down the number of faces. So we've got front, back, and then the 3 sides around the outside. So we've got 5 faces. My second part, write down the number of edges. So we've got 3 at the front, 3 at the back, and then 3 edges joining the front and the back. So we've got a total of 9 faces. Okay, question 10. We've got 8 numbers. Kim picks at random one of these numbers. On the probability scale, mark them across. The probability that Kim picks the number 7. So we haven't got any 7s, so there's a 0 chance. Part B, on the scale mark across, the probability that Kim picks a number greater than 5. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 out of 8. So that's exactly a half. And then part C, find the probability that Kim picks an even number. So evens, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 even numbers out of 8. So it's going to be 5 out of 8. Okay, question 11. Sunita wants to make a picture. To make 35 picture frames, she will need 4 nails for each frame. She has 3 boxes of nails. There are 48 nails in each box. Does she have enough for 35 frames? So to do this, I'm going to treat this as I'm going to work out how many nails she's got enough for. So I'm going to say that 48 multiplied by 3 and then divided by 4 will tell me the number of picture frames that she can make. The number of nails that she's got for the picture frames. So if I do that, 48 times by 3 divided by 4 gives me the value 36. So has she got enough nails for 35 frames? Yes. Yes. She has enough for 36. And you could have done that a different way. You could have said 38 times by 3 equals the number of nails that she has. 35 times by 4 equals the number of nails she needs, and that she's got more. That would be absolutely fine too. Okay, question 12 then. Write 60 meters as a fraction of 1,000 meters. So that's just going to be, as a fraction, 60 over 1,000. Our calculator will cancel that down, but that's going to be 3 out of 50. And you can use your calculator for that if you need to. Okay, question 13. The accurately drawn map shows the positions of 3 points A, B and C in a field. Parveen walks in a straight line from A to B. She then walks in a straight line B to C. Susan walks in a straight line from A to C. Parveen walks more meters than Susan. How many more meters? Save me having to convert into meters and then 3 times. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work out the difference in length in centimeters. So A to B, I'm just measuring it on my copy here. I make the distance from A to B 4.8. So I'm going to say A to B is equal to 4.8 centimeters, and then B to C, I make 3.8. So A to C is equal to 3.8. Obviously, if you've not got your printing the same scale as mine, you might have slightly different answers. You might have done this as on a 50% reduction, so printed it on A5. And then finally, I make A to C 6.5. So A to C is equal to 6.5. 6.5. So my total difference that Parveen walks is 4.8 plus, best my decimal point out, plus 3.6. So they've walked a total of 8.4. So I'm going to work out the difference in distance between their two journeys in centimeters to start with. So 8.4 minus 6.5 is going to be equal to 1.9 centimeters difference. And if we're using a scale of 1 centimeter equals 150 meters, I need to do final stage 1.9 times by 150 to convert it into meters. So times that by one times by 150 gives me 285 meters. And there would have been nothing wrong with me converting each of these into meters first at any stage. I just think it's easiest to do it right at the end. Okay, for part B, find by measurement the bearing of A from C. A from C. To help me out with this then, let me just snip it. Okay, so if I want the bearing of A from C, the first thing I really want to do is create a line between A and C. So that's going to be my line. And then I'm going to, so realistically, you've probably only got half a protractor. I can actually measure that full angle, but I'm going to make out that I've only got a half a protractor, so I'm going to measure this angle here. So I want to measure the angle there. So if you measure that angle, we're equal to 71 degrees. So I'm going to put 71 degrees there as my angle. I'm going to switch back to my page now. So I've found that that angle was 71 degrees. So my actual angle then is going to be 360, or my bearing, sorry, 360 minus 71, which is going to give me 360 minus 71. It's going to give me 289. And it's okay to be out by a degree. Let me just see whether it's explicitly clear in the mark scheme. Just give me a minute. Yeah, they've actually measured it at 288, but they've said anything in the range of 286 to 290. So two either way of 288. Okay, question 14. Here is the shoe size of 12 boys in a class. Find the median. So the median is going to be the middle one. So in effect, probably the quickest is to just cross out top and bottoms until we get middle value or values. So we've got 2 7s as our median, so median is 7. Work out the range. The range will be the largest minus the smallest, so 9 minus 4. So my range is going to be 5. The shoe size for 12 girls in the class, the median shoe size is 6 and the range is 3. Compare the distributions. So boys have a larger median. Boys have a larger median. So on average, have a larger shoe size. My second statement is about the range. So the range has gone from 5 to 3. So the boys have a larger range, so are more spread out. Oops. More spread out. So it tends to be on a 2-mark comparison. It tends to be 1 mark for comparing a measure of average, which in this case is the median, and then the second one for a measure of spread, which in this case is the range. Okay, question 15. Work out 2.75 times 14.6 divided by 10 minus 1.97. So I tend to just type this into my calculator. So 2.75 times by 14.6. And if you're unsure or unclear with your calculator calculations, unconfident, you can put this values and you can do it separately. But on a modern calculator, I don't see any point. And I've missed my decimal point out. So there is a point. You do need to double check that you've typed everything as it appears. And we get 5 for that. Okay, question 16. On the centimetre grid, draw an isosceles. So an isosceles triangle is one with 2 sides the same and 2 angles the same, with an area of 16 centimetres squared. Okay, so if we look at that first of all, the area of a triangle is equal to half of the base times by the height. So if we're saying that that's 12, so 12 is equal to half of the base times by the height. So double both sides, so 24 is equal to the base times height. So we want the base and the height to multiply together to make 24. So what I'm going to use is 6 and 4. So I want a triangle that is 6 wide. So let's start there. So 3, 6 and 4 high. So from the center to 4. That's going to be my triangle. Okay, so there we go. So I've done that too big. Let me just make that a little bit smaller. So there's my triangle. So I've got a 6 by 4 triangle. Okay, question 17. So expand. So 4 times by x is going to give me 12. And then 3 times by minus 2x is going to give me minus 6x. So there we go. For part B, solve. So my first step is going to be to times both sides by 4. That will give me 3y is equal to 48. I then need to divide both sides by 3. So divide by 3 there, divide by 3 there. And then 48 divided by 3 gives us 16. So y is equal to 16. And then factorise I've got no algebra in both terms, so I can only take a number out as a common factor. 2 is a common factor of both 2 and 6. So we're looking at 2 times by 2p plus 3. Okay, question 18. Write 2,530 correct 2 significant figures. So the second significant figure is a 5. The number behind the 5 is a 3, so we would leave it as a 5. So 25, and that 5 represents hundreds. So 2,500. Part B, write 0.0874 correct to 1 significant figure. So 0 can't be your first significant figure, so the 8 is the first significant figure, and that the number behind it is a 7, so it's closer to 0.09. Okay, question 19. There are 400 counters in a box. The counters are red, yellow, or green. So I'm going to use a little table for this. So I've got, if I can get my pen to work. Okay, so I've got red, yellow, or green. We've got some information. We're told, so we've got mixtures of things really. So we've got as fractions. So we've got fractions, we've got the numbers, and we want the percentages though. So we can say that we've got a fraction of 3/8 are red. We know that there are 82 yellow counters, and we also know that there's a total of 400 counters. So how we do this is up to us. I'm going to switch them all into percentages, but there's nothing wrong with doing it differently. This is just... So in effect, I want 3/8 of 100%. So I can put 100 there really, and 1 there. So if I do 3/8 times by 100, and I've got a decimal here, which is okay. So I'm going to call that 37.5% of them are red. I can also work this out as a percentage, so I can do 82 82 divided by 100, divided by 400, sorry, times by 100 will give me the percentage of counters that are yellow. So I've got another decimal, 20.5. So those are so my missing percentage is going to be those two values added together and then taken away from 100. So I'm looking at 42 or 42%. And there's lots of ways you could have done that question, and that's just a suggested way. Okay, question 20. Diagram PQR isosceles triangle. We're told these two sides are the same. And we're told this angle here. Work out the size of CQR, so let's mark that on. C to Q to R, so we're after this angle here. Okay, so I'm going to start by saying that this angle here is going to be 56. So I'm going to describe that as the three letters that it involves. CQP is equal to 56. And then I'll give my reason, and the reason is that it is a corresponding angle. Okay, I am also going to say that this angle here is going to be equal to 56. So I'm going to state my reason as well. So Q to P to R is also equal to 56. And the reason is that it is vertically opposite. And then I'm going to say that PQR is equal to 180 minus 56 divided by 2. So that's going to be 180 minus 56 divided by 2 is going to be equal to 62. And the reason for that is base angles of isosceles triangle are equal. Technically speaking, I've also used the angles in a triangle equal 180, but I'm only going to use that one reason. So the angle that I'm after, CQR, is going to be equal to 56 plus 62. So that's going to be 56 plus 62. So that's going to give me 118. Okay, there we go. Okay, question 21. So on a calculator paper, I would tend to do the lowest common multiple differently than a non-calculator. So on a non-calc, I would break it down into its prime factors, and then Venn diagram to pair it up. On a non-calc, I tend to treat it as a fraction, and you will still get the same marks for doing it this way. So 24 over 56 is going to be equal to 3/7, and what it's cancelled down there by is the highest common factor. So the lowest common multiple is going to be equal to, you times one of the numerators by the denominator, so 24 times by 7, or it would be equal to 56 times by 3. They'll both give you the same value. Let's just show that. 24 times by 7 equals 168, and then just double check, 56 times by 3 also equals 168. So that's quite a nice shortcut on a calculator paper. Okay, 22. Here is a right angle triangle. Work out the value of x. So we're involving the right angle triangle involving three sides is Pythagoras. So we're saying that the shorter side, or x squared, is going to be equal to the longer side squared minus the shorter side squared. So I would tend to evaluate that on my calculator. So that gives me 225 over 4. So square root that then, so x is going to be equal to square root of the answer, so 15 over 2. So I'd write that as decimals in the question, so I'd decimal in my answer, so I'd write that as 7.5, or 7.5, there we go. Okay, work out the value of t when m is equal to minus 3. So t is going to be equal to, and I'm going to write down the substitution, 4 times by minus 3 in a bracket squared, because we're using a negative, so I always substitute a negative in brackets. And then I can just do that on my calculator. So 4 times by minus 3 squared minus 11 gives me the value 25. Okay, make p the subject of this formula. So we're starting with d is equal to 3p plus 4, and we're trying to make p the subject. So I'm going to minus 4 from both sides. So I'll show this. So d minus 4 is equal to 3p. Then to get rid of the times by 3, I'd divide by 3 on both sides. So so d minus 4 divided by 3 is equal to p. So p is equal to d minus 4 divided by 3. Okay, 24. We've got Rick, Selma, and Joey are playing a game with counters. Rick has some counters. Selma has twice as many as Rick. Tony has 6 less than Selma. In total, they have 54 counters. The number of counter Ricky has to the number of counter Tony has is 1 to p. Work out the value of p. Okay, so I'm going to use a ratio to represent it to start with. I'm going to say we've got Rick, S, and T. So we're told that Rick has some counters, so I'm going to call that X. We're told Selma has twice as many, so 2x, and Tony has 6 less, so Tony has got 2x minus 6. Let me just double check that I've got that right. Tony is 6 less than Selma, yeah. Okay, and we're told that in total they have 54 counters, so that's 54. So I'm going to add them together, so x plus 2x plus 3 plus another 2x is 5x, minus 6 is going to be equal to 54. So that means that I need to add 6 to both sides, so 5x is going to be equal to 60, and then divide both sides by 5 gives me x is equal to 12. So if we go back up to our ratio here, Ricky has to Tony has, so we actually want this one to this one. So Ricky has 12, and Tony is going to have 12 times 2 is 24, take away 6 is going to be 18, but we're told to give it in the ratio of 1 to p. So if I bring it back down here, 12 to 18, if I divide both sides by 12, I'd get 1 to 12 divided by, wrong way around, 18 divided by 12 is going to give me 3 over 2, or 1.5. So p is 1.5. Okay, Joe's going to buy 15 rolls of wallpaper. Here is some information about the cost of wallpapers from 2 shops. So we've got 3 rolls for 36, so we have got a multiple of 15 there. Packs of 5 rolls, normal price £70, 12% off the normal price. Okay, so if we look at the price for CD, if we get 3 for 36, then the total cost of 15 is going to be 15 divided by 3 times by 36. So that's going to be 5 times by 36, but let's always double check answers. Times by 36, that's going to be £180 to get those rolls from CD or Chic Decor. Then we look at style papers. So 5 rolls normally cost £70, but 12% reduction off the normal price. So we would need 15 divided by 5 times by 70 times by 12% reduction is a multiplier of 0.88. So I need to times that by 0.88 to find the actual price. So 15 divided by 5 is going to be 3 times by 70 times by 0.88. So it's going to cost £184.80 from SP. So which one is cheaper? She should buy from Chic Decor as £4.80 cheaper. Okay, question 26. Table gives information about the length in centimetres of some pieces of string. Amos draws a frequency polygon for the information in the table. Write down 2 mistakes. So let's have a look. So frequency polygon should be drawn. Let's have a look. So plotted at the midpoints. So I agree with that. That is the midpoint. That is the midpoint. That is the midpoint. We've got a value missing here. So okay, so I think that the first mistake is we're missing a point. We should have, so let's just plot the point. So 40, we should have, 45 we should have plotted there. So that's one mistake. We'll come to the description of that after we've spotted the second one. So that's our first mistake. Our other mistake, so it might not be the only one, this should have been plotted here. Okay, so no, sorry, I've talked a bit of nonsense there. So I should have been plotting these at the midpoints, so I agree with that one. Let's actually just check whether we agree with them properly. So I would have plotted 5, 15, so I agree with that point. Then I would have agreed with 15, 20, 15, 20, so I agree with that point. Then it should have been 25, 50, I agree with that point. Then the next point should have been plotted at 35, 25. 35, 25, so I do agree with what they plotted there. So what I'd written there was a mistake. And then the final one should have been 45, 5. So let me just actually erase my mistakes. So I disagree with where this one has been plotted. And then if we look for the other one, let's check our scales. Length 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I agree with that. Then if we go 10, 20, 30, 50. So we're missing 50 from here. Sorry, we're missing 40 from here. And actually these are in the wrong place. So that's my two mistakes. So my first mistake is 40 is missing from the frequency. So 40 is missing from missing. That's not right. Is missing from frequency. So 50 and 60 are wrong. And then the final point should be plotted at 45.5. That's my two mistakes. Okay, 27. Jessica runs for 15 minutes at an average speed of 6 miles per hour. She then runs for 40 minutes at an average speed of 9 miles per hour. It takes Amy 45 minutes to run the same distance that Jessica runs. Work out Amy's average speed. Okay, so we need to work out the distance travelled by Jessica. Speed is equal to distance divided by time. So distance is equal to speed times by time. But we've got a difference in units here because we want it in miles per hour. So I'm not going to use the time button on my calculator. What I'm going to do is just treat them as fractions. So distance is going to be equal to speed times by time. So the distance that Jessica travels is going to be the speed, the speed, 6 times by 15 out of 60 minutes, plus the distance she travels in the second part, which is 9 times by 40 out of 60. I'm going to use my calculator and do that as one sum. So 6 times by 15 out of 60 plus 9 times by 40 out of 60. So she travels a distance of 7.5 miles. So Amy travels the same distance in 45 minutes. So 45 minutes is 3/4 of an hour, or points. So 45 minutes is equal to 3/4 of an hour, which is 0.75. We don't really need to convert, but there we go. So Amy's speed is going to be equal to distance 7.5 divided by 0.75, which is going to be equal to 10. But of course we can do that on our calculator. There we go. So 10 miles per hour. Okay, the diagram shows a rectangle. We've got straight lines. All measurements are in centimeters. Work out the area of trapezium QUVR. The area is equal to A. Show that A is equal to that. Okay, so I'm going to put some other distances on. I know that that's 4x, and then this length here. If we've got 2x here, we've got 3x and 5 here. That's going to be x plus 5. So from there we can say that the area of a trapezium is equal to a half of top and the bottom, a plus b times by h. So that's going to be equal to a half of x plus 5 is going to be x plus 10. and we need to times that by 4x. So if we will halve the 4x, so that's going to be 2x times by x plus 10, sorry, which is going to just give us 4x squared plus 20x, which is what we were asked to show. Okay, question 29. Change 20 meters per second into kilometers per hour. Okay, I like to do it like this. So 1 meter per second. If I wanted to convert that into kilometers per hour, I would need to, meters to kilometers, I would need to divide by 1,000. And then 1 divided by 1,000. Kilometers per second. Kilometers per second. And then if I want to convert seconds into hours, I would need to times by 60 times by 60. So 1 times by 60 times by 60 divided by 1,000. So that's going to be equal to 6 times 6 is 36. 0, 0 divided by 1, 0, 0, 0. So I'm going to times by 3.6. So I need to do, so that's what I would need to do to convert 1. So I'm going to do 30 times by 3.6. So 30 times by 3.6 is going to give us 108. So 108. Question 30. The value of Michael's car has decreased by 15%. The car now has a value of 13,600. Work out the value before the decrease. So in effect, a decrease of 15% is a multiplier of times by 0.85. So to work out the price of the, so if you think about it, the original value times by 0.85 is equal to 13,600. So x, the original value, would be 13,600 divided by 0.85. So 13,600 divided by 0.85 gives us 16,000. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the paper. Nice paper. Let me just bring up the right mapping document by question. Okay, so there we go. That's each of the questions mapped to a skill. It's also in the thread, in the chapter index. So if you struggled particularly on a specific question, that's the topic that you need to do a little bit of an additional revision on. Okay, I hope you found that useful. Feel free to add any comments or questions into the thread, and I will get back to you fairly quickly. I'm fairly prompt with that. And don't forget, subscribe if you like. Thank you, and see you soon.